greening, your greening efforts have been criticized by some. I mean,
Who's critical? They don't like them? Do we go too far?
In terms of Measure H.
Oh yeah, that was a big mistake. That was a takeover of PG&E, and I don't think that was about environmental stewardship. I think that was about an ideological agenda. Look, when it comes to recycling rates, the highest in America, not California, 70%. Most aggressive solar program in America, not just the state of California. The most aggressive strategy for alternative fuel vehicles in the country, electrification of our vehicle fleet. What we've done more on biodiesel and alternative energy sources than any city in America. First to do composting requirements of any city in the state of California. Wave strategies, and tidal energy strategies, urban wind strategies. We've already reduced our CO2 emissions 6% below 1990 levels, and we're already in 2009. We have done that, and we've grown our economy. We have the most progressive environmental policies in the state of California and in this country, and by any objective standards, I think people recognize that. So I'm very proud of our environmental work.
In terms of the greening in San Francisco is, partially new regulations and partially just efforts by the city. Do you see those regulations, and would you want to extend those throughout the state?
Yeah, absolutely.
Immediately?
Yeah, of course. We need to do more recycling. We need to be more focused on energy efficiency and energy conservation. We need to have stronger green building standards. We have the most aggressive green building standards in the country. We need to electrify our vehicle fleet, not just the Bay Area and San Francisco. It needs to happen up and down the state of California. There's no way we're at 12% renewables as a portion of our energy portfolio to 33% by 2020 pursuant to AB 32 unless we get serious. And that means getting serious today, not serious 6 months from now or 6 years from now. We can't wait for Washington, D.C., even with enlightened leadership and new leadership. We have to take responsibility and continue to lead the nation. And I think we made some progress, but still, from my perspective, in the margins. San Francisco's made a lot more progress, and we've been a stronger economic output and engine because of it. We have unemployment at 6.6%, the state at 9.3%. We've grown new green-collar jobs to a degree. Now we've attracted 118 green-collar companies into our city. We can do a lot more in this state, so I'm going to work aggressively to do a lot more if I'm the governor.
A lot of what you're talking about, including universal health care, involves government spending. What you recently were the force behind a massive cut in San Francisco spending.
Yep, and there'll be a lot more because of the budget deficit, but there's not going to be a cut of our universal health care. In fact, last week we just announced we increased the opportunity for people earning up to $106,000, family of four, expanded our universal health care plan to people earning up to 500% of poverty. You're not going to see any cuts in our universal health plan. You'll see enhancements. You're not going to see cut into our supportive housing for homeless people. You'll see enhancements. You're not going to see cuts into residential treatment with people with bipolar disorder that are duly diagnosed with drug or alcohol addictions. You're going to see an enhancement of that, or methadone clinics, an enhancement of that. You're going to see an enhancement in public education investment. You're not going to see any teachers laid off because we're going to enhance. But yeah, I'm dealing with reality. Every big city mayor in this country is dealing with reality. That is, there are going to be cuts. We can't avoid those cuts. And so we were the beneficiary and burden of large growth, but also cuts, and we're going to have to make even tougher decisions in the next few months. But I'll make those decisions. I won't defer them.
So if you, say, for example, were Arnold Schwarzenegger right now, what would you do?
Well, I'd do everything in my power to convince the one outstanding remaining Republican that they need to step up to the plate and do the right thing. And as we speak, they're hopeful they can get one of two Republicans they think are quote-unquote in play. What a terrible way of describing Sacramento and the game playing that goes on there. It's interesting, you know, a lot of candidates that talk about the fact that they're better at playing the games because they've been around Sacramento. I think it's time to end the game playing period in Sacramento and move in a completely different direction. It's another one of the reasons I'm running for governor. That being said, I wouldn't be doing what the governor has been doing because it produced the result that we have today, and I think none of us are particularly satisfied with the results in Sacramento.
When you look at the field of potential candidates that you might be running against, particularly in the primary, but also the billionaires that you might be running against.
Yeah, I know. There's still billionaires in this economy, too. Remarkable. Multi-billionaires.
I don't want to say how do you see your chances, but how are you going to differentiate yourself?
Well, the same way I differentiated myself when I ran for mayor the first time. I was fourth in the polls. No one thought we had a chance. They had 3 people above me with bigger name identification. We ran a campaign of ideas, 26 policy principles, and we organized and out-organized our opponents. We started early, and we did exactly the kind of work we're doing here today. I don't see any of those candidates going into unfiltered environments like this and answering questions that are being offered by strangers. The fact is, we're doing that. We've been doing that, and that's indicative of the type of campaign we're running. It's a campaign on Facebook. It's a campaign on Twitter. It's a campaign on YouTube. It's a campaign that takes the best, I think, of what Barack Obama did and tries to take it to the next level. It's a campaign about tomorrow, not about yesterday. It's a campaign about bold ideas and a bold vision for the future. And I think it's one that can resonate with people regardless of their time of life, but primarily of their state of mind. So I'm very encouraged about the progress to date. I think we're, even by any objective standards, so we passed the first test of viability, and now the question is, in the next 18 months, can we get to the next phase? And that means we enter into a campaign, and there's a reason we have campaigns. It's an opportunity to communicate with people, connect with people, and offer them a choice. And this campaign is just begun. In fact, it hasn't even formally begun. It's informally begun, and the best is yet to come.
On that note, if Senator Feinstein joins the race,
I'm not going to run if she does. That's the one exception, and that's out of relationships that go back many, many moons. I've been very clear about that privately with her and publicly. I don't see her, though, running, so we're full steam ahead.
So you say that, a lot of things that you say that you're going to push, they cost money, but
Yep.
How do you see funding them on the state level, which would be significantly more expensive?
Yeah, not necessarily in relative terms. The conditions are the same. I'm the only mayor of a county in the state of California. It's a big differential between other mayors that govern a city. I govern a county, so I have welfare, adult and aging service issues. I have issues of disproportionately impact health of people. And so as a consequence, I'm very familiar with the challenges of the state. And the reality is our budget deficit's bigger on a percentage basis than the state's budget deficit. I have more constraints, yes, even more constraints as a mayor of San Francisco in terms of set-aside funding than the state of California. Yet we're doing universal health care and universal preschool and universal after-school programs, and we're doing more on poverty eradication with a high minimum wage and a sick leave ordinance, and doing working families tax credits and getting more people banked and out of check cashing places, and more people housed that are out in the streets and the sidewalks. So if we can do it, we can do it in the state. One thing we've discovered, it's less expensive, for example, to treat someone's health than it is to treat their sickness, meaning to invest in someone's health is a lot less expensive than to treat their sickness after the fact. We've discovered ways to save money by investing strategically in certain areas. There are other ways to waste money, and that is continue to do what you've done and expect a different result, and that's not something we're offering. I don't want to go back to the future. I don't want to argue for yesterday. I want to argue for a brighter tomorrow, a new approach to solving problems, not just talking about problems, not failing more efficiently by talking about the problems in the margin, but by real order of magnitude change, real reforms, but not reforms that are anti-union reforms or anti-business reforms, reforms that reform problems by executing different strategies and different solutions. And again, that's why we ran a campaign of ideas. When I ran for mayor the first time, it's why I'm running a campaign of ideas for governor this time, and I think it will distinguish our efforts.